All right, good morning, everyone. Sorry for the little late start. So I just want to introduce our guests today. So please join me in welcoming Niels Ribeiro Yomofio and Marinelle Berry, who are with us from Lift DC. Uh, so together, they're going to be talking about Lift DC's programs to break the cycle of poverty for families in the city. Just by way of introduction, Niels has been leading Lift since 2023 and brings more than a decade of experience in education, consulting, and nonprofit leadership. Before Lyft, he served as an associate partner at Stronger Consulting, guiding strategy for mission-driven organizations. He also led external affairs at DC Prep Public Charter School, advancing fundraising, communications, and community engagement. And earlier, as a launch director for College Track DC, he helped expand college access for students in our region. Marinelle has been a leader at Lift DC since 2018, where she is sustained by her commitment to the organization's mission to walk alongside families. And before Lift, Marinelle began her career at the Advisory Board Company, where she obtained a decade of nonprofit experience specializing in events and development. So welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. Today, you'll hear about our work at Lift DC and how you can support local families. Closer? Okay, cool. Thank you. That's okay. Okay, so today you will hear about our work at Lift DC and how you can support families alongside us. You'll also get to hear from one of our Lift DC members via video as well. And you can advance to the next slide. So my name is Marinelle Berry. I'm the Senior Development Manager for Lift DC. And of course, I'm joined by our Executive Director of Lift DC, Niels Ribeiro Yomofio. We can advance to the next slide. Lift was founded in 1998 by young college students who wanted to make a difference. It was focused on creating space for families to get wraparound support from trained student volunteers. Over time, we've refined our approach to this work, and we've developed an evidence-informed model of coaching that supports families working on financial, career, educational, and well-being goals. Lift is a national organization of which we're part of the DC chapter, and Lift also serves families in Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York as well. You can advance to the next slide. Lift helps families to achieve their long-term goals through transformational coaching. Our coaching meets members where they are. It honors their values, their priorities, and their needs. So in other words, the work that we do with our members is directly informed by their self-determined goals. Lift supports parents and caregivers by focusing on their personal well-being, financial strengths, and social connections, or what we at Lift like to call hope, money, and love. These essential elements provide a strong foundation of success for families, and it's on a 2-generation level and beyond. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Niels, who will dive deeper into our work.
Thank you, Marinelle. So I wanted to share a few quick things before I dive into the program. One, just a little bit about my personal experience. I grew up in Alexandria, Virginia, born and raised in Alexandria, Virginia. And unfortunately, we moved a lot growing up. We moved, I want to say, between 6 times between kindergarten and 9th grade. And so we experienced a lot of instability. Most of it was for financial reasons. But as Bill mentioned, I started my career in educational equity because my family experienced economic mobility because of education. And so I thought, that's the ticket, education. But throughout my time, I noticed that education is one way to experience economic mobility. It is not the way. The key thing that I realized is that folks need help. Folks just need help in some way, shape, or form, especially parents. And the more you trust and listen to what they're sharing and provide the support that they need, that's the way that they can experience economic mobility. So I bring that up because we're going to talk about the specific aspects of LIFT's program. The entire premise of LIFT is to break the cycle of poverty by investing in parents. And we do that through a three-pronged programmatic approach. So the first one is direct service. If you don't mind moving to the next slide. Look at that amazing pictures, right? Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the life cycle of a member of LIFT and how they engage with the program. First, they are connected with us through a strategic partner. So whether it's Apple Tree Early Learning Center or an adult charter school like Goodwill Excel Center, or through one of our partners who also believe in the 2-gen framework that Marinelle was talking about. The more you invest into a parent's life, the more they're going to invest into a child's life, essentially lifting 2 generations at the same time. If they have that belief, then we want to partner with you. The member connects with us. We talk about our parameters of what you're looking for. So you have to have a child between the age of 0 to 8. You have to have stable housing, and you have to be in some place of experiencing financial hardship and be willing to commit to the 2 years of the program and the coaching that comes with it. If you say yes to all those things and the program aligns with you, you can become a member. And the first thing we do is connect you with the LIFT coach. That coach then asks you, what are the hopes and dreams you have for yourself and your family? Unfortunately, for a lot of our members, that's the first time someone's asked them that as an adult. And so they then share what their hopes and dreams are. And the next thing that happens is our coach affirms them on what their hopes and dreams are. And then they work on a plan to make that happen. And for the next 2 years, once a month, they are talking about how they're progressing towards that plan, towards those goals. And while they are working on that goals, LIFT provides very modest cash infusions to help them out along the way. Because unfortunately, the small stuff becomes big stuff if you don't have the cash to support you along the way. And then all that stuff you see there is them actually succeeding in the goals and achieving economic mobility. And then we do something called lift off, where we celebrate them, they lift off. There's other ways that they engage with us after they're done with the program, but that's a little bit later. I'm giving you a tease. It's a little bit later, but we then bring in more members to be a part of the program. So that's a bit about the program. The next slide, if you don't mind, shares a little bit about the demographics of our program. So in case you're curious, the majority of our members are DC residents, and the majority of where they reside is in wards 6, 7, and 8. And then you'll also see some demographics, like 95% of our members are female, 88% identify as African American or Black. And then you might be wondering, does the program work? I'm talking really nice about it, but does it actually work? Well, yes, it does. If we can go to the next slide, please. You will see that in this past year, we worked with 145 members. Of the members we worked with, 96% improved in their finances in some way, shape, or form. Of those who had a goal to increase their income, they increased it on an average of $20,000. They decreased their debt on an average of $4,000, and they increased their savings on an average of $6,000. And no, last year was not an outlier. This is how it's consistently looked since I've been with LIFT. And you might be thinking, well, DC must be the best region of LIFT. And yes, you're right, it is the best region of LIFT. But if you look at all the other regions as well, the numbers are fairly consistent. So what we know is we actually know how to break the cycle of poverty. It's cash, it's coaching, and it's social connection. Or as Marinelle just shared, hope, money, and love. And so because we know how to break the cycle of poverty, I'm proud of the 145 lives that we touch, but we want to break the cycle of poverty. And unfortunately, those numbers are not enough. So that's where the 2 other elements of our program come in. So next, if you don't mind, I'll talk about technical assistance. You can go to the next one. And that's where we partner with other social service organizations to get their interactions with families to model how our coaches work with our members. So one thing that our members always say is they come to LIFT because they trust us. They feel like they're treated with dignity. They're not told what to do. They share what they want to do and are supported along the way. And they wish everywhere felt like LIFT. And that's exactly what our technical assistance program does. We support other social service organizations so that their interactions, instead of being transactional, is rooted in goals and rooted with dignity, so that members, when they come through their doors, feel like they are being treated with respect, that they have the authority to think about what's best for themselves and their family, and they can trust the organizations to provide the resources they need to do that. We have partnered with organizations here in DC like Martha's Table. I'm sure some of you have heard of Martha's Table before. We partner with them in like 20 different ways, and one of them is our technical assistance partnership. But we've also partnered with DC's Department of Human Services through their TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or TANF office, as well as their SNAP office, which provides food resources. And you might be wondering if our technical assistance program works. Well, yes, it does. You can see some of the data here. This is with our partnership with the Department of Human Services office. They asked how relevant the training was, and 95% of them said it is extremely relevant. They said, will it make the engagement and interactions with families improve? And 100% of the participants said, yes, it will. They said, did they receive support from the supervisors to be able to effectively implement the program? And 100% said yes. And again, yes, DC is the best region of LIFT, but the numbers are fairly consistent across all the different organizations across the country that we partner in technical assistance with. So we know that individually, we can make a difference through Hope, Money, and Love. And we know that we can support social services in improving their interactions with family. But again, we want to break the cycle of poverty. So there's one other element that we do as well, which, if you go to the next slide, please, is policy and advocacy. There are just some systems, structures, and things that are set up politically that impede someone's journey towards economic mobility. So the entire framework of our policy and advocacy work is, if you go to the next slide, please, is to empower our members to advocate for the changes that they want to see to make their journey towards economic mobility more possible. Now, a lot of our members have already progressed in their world of economic mobility, but not everyone they know will have an opportunity to partner with LIFT. And so they are advocating not just for themselves, but for their friends, their families, their cousins, who they want to be in LIFT, who may not have a chance to go into LIFT. So how can we change the systems and structures so that everyone can have an opportunity to experience economic mobility? And so what we've done this, I want to say in 2 years ago, when we first started our policy and advocacy work, we asked our members, what is your policy agenda? What do you want to be the thing that we advocate for? Our members said, we heard that they are wanting to implement a child tax credit in DC. That's what we want our policy agenda to be. We felt the impact of the child tax credit federally during the pandemic. We want to have a local DC child tax credit. I said, okay, because we do not establish the policy, staff does not, it's all our members. What we provide is training on the legislative process of DC and training on how to provide testimonies. And I'll say the last part is provide opportunities for them to engage with decision makers. So once we did that, they then had the opportunity to testify at DC Council about the child tax credit. And then 2 months later, it was written into DC's budget. So the first policy agenda our members established, it was passed within less than a year of when we actually established the policy agenda. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you can go to the next slide. That actually shows us doing that. So that's me right there. You see that lovely young man right there? Yes, that's it. So not just staff, but our members also testified in the hearing. And then another initiative that we do is have awareness events where we talked about this one here that you see. We partnered with an organization called UPO to talk about the benefits cliff, which essentially is as you experience public benefits and you slightly increase your income, you're in danger of immediately losing all your benefits at one time, which means you're actually bringing less money home than you did when you were on benefits. And you're kind of like, that kind of makes sense, but doesn't make sense. And that's the problem. It's a policy issue. It kind of makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. We can actually adjust the policy so that it still incentivizes you to increase your income while slowly getting you off of benefits so that as you progress, it's not a huge burden on your family to now you're bringing in less money, even though you're doing what you want to do to increase your income. And so this event was to build awareness around that. Now, I'll quickly name, wait, if you don't mind going back. I'll quickly name in the world of policy and advocacy, specifically this past year, it has been one of the toughest for social service nonprofit organizations. There have been changes nationally and locally that have made it extremely hard, not just for organizations, but for the stakeholders we work for. And so I just talked about the celebration for the child tax credit. Yay, it just got written out of DC's budget this past year. What changed? It's a great question. Great question. Stuff changed. But what I can also tell you is the child tax credit wasn't the only thing that was taken away. So was the baby bonds program. The DC also has something called an emergency rental assistance program. That program was cut. That is the only program, or one of the few, I should say, one of the few programs if you need help with your rents. That is one of the few programs that DC has. There's also the SNAP program, which I mentioned. There's actually about maybe 7 more things I can tell you that was cut from this past budget. And so we're noticing now more than ever that organizations that do direct service work have to do something called some aspect of policy and advocacy work. I personally was like, well, the child tax credit didn't pass. What should we do now? And if it was my choice, we would do something really easy, but it's not my choice. Our member said, we're bringing the child tax credit back. We want it stronger, and we want to incorporate a coaching component as well. Because again, it's not just cash and it's not just coaching. Cash and coaching together is what our members have experienced to put them on a journey towards economic mobility. So for this current year, our members are advocating to have the child tax credit back, to have it stronger, and to include a coaching component as well. So that is a bit of not just our policy and advocacy work, but the 3 aspects of our programs and how they support our members in the broader community on their journey towards economic mobility. And with that, I'll turn it back to you.
So there are a handful of ways that you can advance to the next slide. There are a handful of ways that you can directly support our work in local families. The first way is to make a one-time gift today. If you scan the QR codes, for those of you who are in person, if you scan the QR codes that are on your handout, it will take you directly to our giving page. For those of you who are joining online, thank you. You can go to www.whywelift.org. That's WHYWELIFT.org, and click the donate button and select Lift DC. The second way that you can support local families on a more ongoing basis is to become a recurring donor. The reality is that weeks, months, and years from now, the communities that we serve will continue to be impacted by inequity. And so your ongoing support ensures that we can continue walking alongside them on their journey to economic mobility. Another way to support Lift DC and local families through our work is to open doors, just like Bill has done today and St. John's has done today. So thank you so much for having us. You can invite your network, your community members, your colleagues, your families to get to know Lift DC. And when you create space for us to share about our work and the amazing stories of our members, you really help to strengthen our foundation and help us to provide long-term support to families who need it most, especially during critical times. Another way that you can support is by volunteering at our distribution events and advocacy days that Niels mentioned a little bit earlier. For example, several months ago, we accompanied a handful of our members to talk directly to council members about the child tax credit. They shared their lived experience. They shared about their time with Lift DC, how coaching has impacted them, and why coaching should be an element in the child tax credit. And it would be so powerful if we had additional community voices at the table as we continue to advocate for families across the city. You can also become a board member of Lift DC and help to advise us on how to take our national strategy and execute it on a local level. If any of these opportunities speak to you, we would be more than happy to schedule some time to talk about what support looks like for you. As people of faith, we know that Jesus stood alongside those who were marginalized. He was an ally, an activist, and a liberator. His example shows us that faith is not separate from the work of justice. It's what fuels it. And that's why spaces like this church can be so powerful in lifting communities and families up that need it the most. Now more than ever, we need community to sustain this work and each other. And your support makes all the difference. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for considering Lift DC and our families. I will turn it over to Niels, who will share a beautiful member testimony and take questions.
I'll just quickly say, we're going to show Miss Nicole, you're not supposed to have favorites. That's all I'm going to say. You're not supposed to have favorites. But anyways, I'm really excited for you to see this video of Miss Nicole and her giving a bit of her story. She would have loved to come, but she had to go to church herself. So she has a video here to tell you a little bit about her journey.
Hi, St. John's Church family. My name is Nicole Ahmad, and I'm excited to share a little bit about my journey with Lift DC. When I connected with Lift DC, I was working on a big vision to create an organization that would expand childcare access and opportunities for families in Virginia. Through their coaching program, Lift DC became my accountability partner, helping me stay focused, set goals, and move step by step toward launching that vision. Because of that support, I was able to start my organization, You Launch Childhood Development Homes, a licensed family day system here in Virginia, and one of only two of its kind in the entire state. You Launch Childhood Development Homes gives families access to safe, high quality childcare while creating real pathways for childcare providers to become business owners. I'm truly grateful to Lift DC for walking with me in this journey and to St. John's Church for supporting their mission. Your partnership makes it possible for stories like mine to exist. Thank you so much, and may God bless.
All right, so we'll go ahead and start our Q&A portion. Lisa, what are we doing with for questions? Okay, you guys want to join me on the stage? Just be careful on the steps there. It's a tight little staircase. But yeah.
We were next to each other.
So thanks again for joining us today. I guess maybe I'll kick off the questions with what really hooked me about Lift DC, apart from your sparkling personalities. I think hearing you talk about your experience in education equity and childhood poverty, it really stuck with me the way that, what seems like a common sense notion, but I don't think it's that prevalent in terms of society, of the way to help the kid is help the family. And I have a lot of experience myself in healthcare, and so many of our government programs, I mean, we have a small army of caseworkers that all they do is try to help people connect with all the various programs. And much of that's because, when you think about things like Medicaid or so many of the programs are just narrowly focused on, and for childhood, it's focusing on the kid who's in school. But if you don't get to the family, you're not really getting to the root of it. So I just love how Lift really has that holistic perspective. And then also, and you've said it multiple times, you learn from your members. So instead of saying Lift says, it's our members say. So I just want to credit you for that. To me, that's really compelling, and it's what makes Lift different than a lot of the nonprofits out there. And I wonder if you want to build on that a little bit in terms of, how did Lift come about? How did you all come to that realization as an organization?
Yeah. So first, I'll say I had like it sounds like common sense, right? But I spent again close to 10 years in educational equity. And it came from me noticing I saw if you looked at our data in all of these different educational organizations I was a part of, the places where we had the strongest impact were usually the places where we had the best collaboration with parents. And so a wondering I always had was, well, should we just invest more in parents? Because parents clearly are investing in their kids. So should we just invest more in parents? And come to find out there was an organization called Lyft that was doing that. Now, how Lyft got to that place, when it first started, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marinelle. So when it first started, Lyft was all about, okay, we know young people on college campuses want to help. They have time to help. Like, let's put them in spaces where they can help folks who are experiencing financial hardships, who just need a quote unquote lift. So they can leverage their time, their experience to support someone on whatever they needed. What changed was data. We started looking at the data of where we were, what was our sweet spot? What was the most change that was happening based off of those interactions with students? And what we noticed was, oh, folks who have young children, we're seeing a dramatic impact, not just on the adult, but on the lives of children as well. And then we noticed another sweet spot was when someone just went from instability to stability. As soon as they are in a place of some type of like stable economic place, and then they work with a Lyft coach, all of a sudden they're experiencing mobility. Well, not all of a sudden, it's 2 years, but all of a sudden they're experiencing mobility. And so from looking at that data, we realized one, there's something about working with a parent with a young child. Two, there's something about where that person is on their journey. And then three, there's something about that relationship between the member and the Lyft coach. And so we realized 2Gen, which is, what we're sharing, which we also realized we have power in supporting someone's journey in economic mobility. But then that third part was coaching. There's something special about coaching. And so after looking at the data to come to those conclusions, we just double and triple down on those areas. And that has evolved Lyft to where it is now.
And I'd also add, when we look at people who are in high places, right, they have a lot of support to be able to thrive. They have assistants and executive coaching and things like that. We'd like to regard our members as the CEOs of their household who also need support to thrive. And so that's kind of the basis through which we do our work as well.
Thanks. Maybe I'll ask one more and I got two more, but I'll do one more and then we'll open it up. And then if I get to my other question, I will. Ms. Nicole, so can you just talk about your, one of your favorites, but
They're all my favorite.
yeah. How, tell us let me frame it this way.
Uh-huh.
So I'm very interested in how do your members find Lyft? And then, tell us more about her story and
Yeah.
what was her, what was her dream?
Miss Nicole's story is amazing and ridiculous. So we'll start with this. Miss Nicole, she found out about Lyft because I want to say her second day at a new job at an organization, I think it was actually UPO, United Planning Organization. She was there and they're like, hey, there's this organization that we know called Lyft that's coming in and they want to share about how they can support some of the families we work with. And as she was hearing the presentation and hearing all the things that we do, she suddenly realized, this is what I need. I'm actually in a place like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay rent this month. I know I just got this job, but I am struggling right now. And I don't know what to do and where to get help. So she did share the program out to her stakeholders or to her families, but she also applied for the program as well. She didn't know she qualified. And after she did the intake process, she realized she qualified. And so in one of her sessions, the coach asked, well, what are the dreams that you have for yourself? And she said some cookie cutter answer, and the coach called her out on it. She's like, no, what do you really want to do? I'm sure you give that answer to everybody. What do you actually want to do? And that next conversation was actually the foundation of ULaunch, when she was talking about, well, I just see that there's this need in Virginia to support having children have a program like what she called ULaunch. And then the coach was like, well, what do you need to get started with it? She's like, I don't know, help, I guess. And that started a 2-year engagement with, at the time, 2 different coaches to take her idea to actually establish the program, to actually build relationships with the state of Virginia. She used the modest GoFunds to actually pay for the licensure, to pay for starting the business, to pay for the website. And all of a sudden, she is now one of 2 of those type of programs in the state of Virginia. And she's currently thinking about expansion of her program as well. So Miss Nicole is, I mean, it's a ridiculous story, but it's also not the only story that we have. We have another member who, when they were engaging with Lyft, she was experiencing homelessness for almost like a year and a half of the 2 years that she was in our program. But she said one thing she wanted to do was to get a higher ed degree, and she graduated, I'm going to get around,
Magna cum laude.
magna cum laude. And then I want to say a month or 2 after she graduated, she sent her coach a picture, and the picture was her holding 2 keys, and it was for her brand new apartment that she just had. And we were like, oh my goodness, we need to tell everybody, send us a picture of you in front of this, like tell us this, that, and the third. She's like, all you need to do is send them a picture of me holding those 2 keys, because that's the whole story. I went from experiencing homelessness to now magna cum laude with my own apartment, with a job that is consistently paying me well. And it's like, I'm sure you're like, wow, there's a lot of hard work. I'm sure you're making it sound nice, but this is a lot of hard work. It is a lot of hard work, but it is so rewarding because you get to hear stories like that all the time. You get to hear amazing stories of our members and what they're accomplishing. And all we're doing is listening and providing a little bit of help and a little bit of cash. And we are seeing the amazing things that our members get to do. So.
Okay, any questions from the audience? Go ahead, Jane, or others.
No, just because I have the microphone.
Right.
Hello. I've got a couple questions I'm going to ask. First question should be easy. For policy and advocacy, do you have a relationship with the DC Poor People's Campaign?
I don't know if we are. We partner with the Fair Budget Coalition. We partner with DC Guarantee Based Income. We partner with the Under 3 Coalition. So I'm almost certain that the one that you shared is a part of one of those coalitions. So we may be partnering with them through the other coalitions that we're in, but I don't know if we are partnering directly with them. Now, what I'm learning every day is, as we talk with our members around policy and advocacy, and then they engage with us, next thing I know, they're a part of like 6 or 7 different organizations because they realize the power of their voice. And they're like, okay, great. Thanks, Lyft. I'll keep working with you, but there's about 7 other causes that I care about, and I'm going to work with them as well. So.
Well, maybe afterward I can share a little bit about them with you. Second question is, do you keep in touch with your clients after the 2 years? You keep, touching base like regularly, ongoing?
Informally, we do. I will name a desire that I have is that we formally track what our members are doing well past the 2 years. But informally, we do through our policy and advocacy work. So our policy and advocacy work doesn't just engage our current members, it engages members that have graduated from Lyft sometimes 2, sometimes 5 years ago. And that's a way that we can engage with them so they can share their stories, not just with the current members, but to those decision makers to show the power of how Lyft can support them on their journey.
Hi, can you speak to more to the stable housing requirement? Like, why do your clients need a stable housing requirement?
It's not a strict requirement. Don't say anybody. It's not a strict requirement, but it is one of the signs to show that they are experiencing stability, right? So while we work with clients that are experiencing financial instability, a sign of stable housing for up to 6 months shows that they are transitioning towards a more stable financial place. Again, because we realize Lift coaching and the modest cash infusion is more dynamic when someone is entering stability versus if they're experiencing financial crisis.
You mentioned your coaching, which sounds fabulous. I'm wondering, do the parents have an opportunity to meet with one another? Are there social opportunities? Can they learn from one another?
Yeah, well, I didn't really talk too much about so we say cash a lot and we say coaching a lot, but there's a third component, which is social connections. Oftentimes our members feel lonely. They feel like they are the only ones that can take care of themselves and their family. And we want them to not feel alone. Yes, they have strong and amazing relationship with their coaches, but we also want them to get to know each other and to build relationships with each other so that they can depend on community. And so how we do that is, one, we provide not just one-on-one coaching, but group coaching. So our members are actually coaching each other in a group setting. We also provide workshops where our members have an opportunity to learn from members of the community about a particular area that our members care about. And then last but not least, we have events, whether it's distribution events or family fun days or holiday celebrations. It is a space for our members and their kids to come together and chat and have a lot of fun. I will personally name my kids come to all of those events. They are ridiculous. And it shows how much our members love us because they don't judge my kids at all. They're just like, yeah, it's fine. Go ahead, throw stuff around the table. But regardless, to answer your question, that is a space for them to have an opportunity to build relationships with each other.
Can you expand a little bit on the purposes of the cash distributions and the criteria you use to decide how you're going to do that and how much?
So every member gets the same amount of cash, which is $150 every quarter for up to 2 years. So at the end of Lift, it's around $1,200 that they'll receive max. The origin of that number was based off of the IRS's criteria of how much you can gift someone without it being applied to be considered income. So that was the threshold on how we determined that specific number. Why we provide cash is mostly because we saw the power of folks receiving cash and the impact it had on them achieving their goals. So that is the very short version. I'm sure there are several organizations that actually provide much more substantial cash that can tell you the impact and the power of cash and why they go with a specific amount. I've heard anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000, and we support those organizations and encourage them. We're just naming that cash should be a component because we know it helps somebody on their journey towards economic mobility.
And I'd also add that sometimes these blips in financial mobility can really hinder a person as they're working toward their goals. And so we really want to provide slack for our members so that they can focus on the things that they're trying to achieve. So although modest, it does make a huge difference for people who are, maybe a little bit short on rent or needing some assistance with groceries. So a little bit goes a long way.
So with respect to the cash assistance, I was wondering about some of the programs which do provide larger amounts, guaranteed 500, 1,000 for a month. I think the original large study for that was in, excuse me, in Los Angeles, I believe. And that, I heard a couple of presentations on that, and it seemed very positive. And then I know locally, Bread for the City did one also. And again, I heard several people from Bread from the City talk about, and it seemed very successful. I think they were cooperating with maybe Martha's Table for running the banking or something like that. And then more recently, and I'm an old man, so I forget details, but more recently I read something that sounded like a plausible criticism. And I think the difference may have relied on how long a period of follow-up there was. In any case, what it seemed to say, if I remember correctly, was that after, 2 years, 3 years later, it didn't mark those families who had received the cash up as having prospered more than those who had not. So I don't know which is true, but I'm wondering if you would suggest that maybe the coaching plays a big role.
So I am familiar with that study, and I will not go viscerally on why I know that study had the results that it did. And I lied. I am going to talk about it. So there is a significant difference between that study and the strictly cash programs that exist. And the big thing is the amount of money that those families received. They received significantly less money from that program that quote unquote didn't receive strong results, even though we haven't seen long enough longitudinal data to actually show whether it did have a true impact or not. What we do know is, compared to the other programs that you named, including Bread for the City, including Martha Stable, including the LA programs, they received 5 times as much money from those programs compared to that program that just so happens to be one of the few programs that all of a sudden shows that there is an impact from just strictly cash programs. I think it's very interesting and unique that the one program that is giving a fifth of how much these other programs are giving, that hasn't had enough runway to show the true impact, is all of a sudden one that shows that cash programs don't exist. But that's just me saying what I think. Who am I? What do I know? Except for the fact I'm the executive director of one of the best economic mobility programs here in DC. So outside of that fact, I don't know. What I can tell you is this: cash works and coaching works, but I have seen with my own eyes the power of cash and coaching together, and it is substantial. I think any cash program can benefit from a coaching program. I think any coaching program can benefit from a cash program, because I can't refute what I have seen for the past 2.5 years. It works, and it works extremely well. So that's what I'll say to that point.
Can you speak a little more about your volunteer opportunities, please?
Absolutely. So as Niels mentioned, we have events. We do distributions during the winter for essentials. We also do distributions throughout the year as well. And you can definitely come interact with our members, share your hope and love with them as well, and build those social connections that we're talking about. Another opportunity for volunteering is becoming a board member of Lift DC. You'd be, of course, volunteering your time, talent, and treasure to our organization to really help us implement national policy on a local level. And I think that's it for volunteer opportunities.
Sorry, thank you. Hi, thank you. We have a couple questions from online. One is whether you operate or would take applicants from Montgomery County, where we are. And then sort of a related question is, you have some large numbers for people that you're helping, and do you have plans to scale up and get more and maybe expand your service area? And what would it take to do that?
Great. Those questions are great. The first question is around, they asked if we accept members from other areas. I'll name this: 99% of our members are DC residents, but we have members that live in Virginia. You actually just met Miss Nicole. We have members in Prince George's County and Montgomery County. And in case you're wondering, I showed that the majority of our members are from wards 6, 7, and 8, but we have members in every single ward of the city. So I named to you that while it says Lift DC, it should be called Lift DMV or Lift DC Metro. We are not restricted. We have the luxury of not being restricted by specific lines of the DC map. But the other thing I'll name is, part of the reason our numbers look the way they do is because our program is essentially structured because of the knowledge that we have for programs that DC residents receive. So if we are working with a member who is located in Montgomery County or in Arlington, we'll name to them, hey, just so you know, the majority of programs that we're aware of, the majority of organizations that we'll suggest to you for those are DC residents. If you would like to continue, you can, but just know that we are limited to the amount of, to the number and names of programs that are mostly for DC residents. So that's the the first point. And then the other one is, I promise you, we get this question all the time. Someone asked me, when is there going to be a Lift Charlotte? Someone asked me, when are you going to triple your numbers so that there's 500 million thousand Lyft members in Lyft DC? And that is literally why we have the other two elements of our program. I would love a world where there is a bunch of Lyft DC members. I don't know if my program director feels the same way, but I would love a world where we have a lot of members. But part of that is hubris. Like, I know the program works, and if I know the program truly works, then we can have other organizations work that way as well. So how are we changing organizations, whether it's healthcare, whether it's early childcare providers, whether it's universities, or whether it's government entities themselves? How are we evolving them so that everywhere feels like Lyft, so that Lyft doesn't have to exist? Lyft turned 25 a year ago, and our CEO stood on stage and talked to founders, talked to supporters, talked to champions, talked to former members, and said out loud, Lyft will not turn 50. We are not turning 50 because we would have done everything we need to do in the next 25 years for Lyft to not exist. And in order to do that, we have to double and triple down on our technical assistance and our policy and advocacy work. So that is how we technically expand our work, is through how we supporting organizations that do exist to better support their stakeholders, and how are we having our members advocate for the systems and structure changes that will help them experience economic mobility.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for coming here and sharing your morning with us. I was just wondering about your coaching program. Like, where do you find coaches? Are they paid members of your staff? Are they volunteers? Like, what are the criteria? Thank you.
So we have two types of coaches. One is our part-time coaches. Those are part-time employees. They come from a miscellaneous backgrounds, whether it's some who've actually worked in social services, some who've actually been caseworkers for government. They just come from a wide range of experiences, and they'll be our Lyft coaches. And then the other group is our Masters of Social Work students who are doing their practicum hours with Lyft. So those are the two ways we recruit coaches into the program.
So one of your slides indicated that either 95 or 90% of your clients were women, which was even higher than I would have expected. Can you explain that? Why there aren't more men involved?
It's a great question. I don't want to, this might be an opportunity for me to talk about the patriarchy, but I won't. Part of that is just the comfort of a specific and particular household. So if there are two-parent households, and yes, we do partner in two-parent households, we invite both parents to participate, but one parent may just feel more comfortable participating. And whether you're looking at the school settings or whether you're looking at the medical settings, more than likely the numbers show that the mother would want to be one of the people who are engaging with those social services. The other part is we do have a number of members who are single mothers that we are engaging with. And so the numbers kind of just show up for themselves. We do have male members. We do have fathers who are in the program, and we often ask them, where are the other men at? And oftentimes, unfortunately, and this is where I do rage against the patriarchy, unfortunately, some men don't feel like they deserve help. They don't realize that they can ask for help. They feel like if they need help, all of a sudden, they are not deserving to be a man. And so we are constantly thinking about how are we supporting all kinds of members in every way, shape, or form to realize that everyone asks for help and everyone deserves to receive help. So.
Ann? I'm just over here.
Is this the last word? This is the last word. Well, first, I wanted to thank you all for being here today and for those amazing questions and your engagement with this outstanding group. Let's thank them first for their fantastic presentation. Thank you so much. But I also want to use this moment to make a pitch for our Racial Justice and Equity Committee. We know about this fabulous organization because Bill Reisner, who chairs that committee, and the committed group that meets with him the second Wednesday of every month or third Wednesday. second Wednesday of every month at 6:30, is the group in our church that is putting life to the racial justice and equity statement that 3 or 4 years ago, this church concluded. I hope you've all read it. And in that statement, we committed to certain actions. And among them were working with affected communities to try to make a difference and to reverse the centuries of racial injustice in the country. And we have to recognize the work of our committees, right? We have so many committees at St. John's. If you're wondering what they're doing, this is the kind of thing that they're doing. So thank you so much to you, Bill, for leading that group. Anyone is welcome to join them on Zoom the second Wednesday of every month at 6:30. And we hope to see more from you in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Thanks, everyone.